Madam Deputy Speaker, and it's a huge pleasure to follow such an esteemed list of female parliamentarians and indeed an esteemed colleague from Northern Ireland. So I just want to start by saying particularly the comments from the Honourable Lady from Birmingham Yardley, who's not in her place, were incredibly powerful. You could hear a penny drop in the chamber as she read out the names of the women who have died as a result of domestic violence and abuse in the last year. And I am proud that in Scotland the SNP government have brought in world-leading domestic abuse legislation, but we still have a huge challenge. I just recently finished reading, and as it is World Book Day, I want to mention one of my favourite books that I've read recently, Eve Was Shamed, by Dame Helena Kennedy, who sits in the other place. And she talked about the structural inequalities in the justice system, and that is something that across all jurisdictions in the UK we must continue to focus on. And it is the theme for International Women's Day is balance for better. And it is a great opportunity to talk about those structural inequalities for women, and also intersectionality, discrimination against women who are from black and ethnic minority communities, the LGBT community, disabled, or any minority group. But I'd like to stress at the outset, it's essential to understand that women's rights are not to be achieved at the cost of men's. And there's a huge role for men to play: husbands, fathers, sons, brothers and friends. My own brother, I would hasten to add, is an ardent feminist. He was brought up by a single mother along with myself. He has a female partner and a female daughter. So he has literally been surrounded by women his whole life. One of the things that we have talked about recently, and I raised earlier at DCMS questions, is the scourge of online media, particularly social media and gaming. And much has been said about the abuse that female parliamentarians particularly receive, and the creep of abuse online. And the game Rape Day that was just released recently by developer Deskplant has, thank goodness, been stopped from being streamed on the platform Steam. But the creator of this game, and I find it incredible that somebody would sit behind a computer and create a game that looks to verbally harass, kill and rape women, with content including violence, sexual assault, non-consensual sex, obscene language, necrophilia and incest. How in any world should that be a game that somebody would play? So there has been huge outcry, including from my colleague in the Scottish Parliament, Shona Robeson, who raised this at First Minister's questions today, and the First Minister herself called that out. A game of that nature has no place in our society, and I am very glad it's been pulled. But at a time when 1 in 5 women will experience sexual violence in their lives, young teens are learning about sex from online porn, I would absolutely question the morals behind that. A few weeks ago, the NSPCC published a report highlighting research they carried out on social media online harm. And the results, I'm sure, will shock everyone in the chamber, and indeed parents, particularly at home. Technology facilitated grooming has become a major challenge. Across the UK in 2017-2018, there were more than 3,500 police-recorded offences for sexual communication with a child. In England and Wales, 70% of offences where the data was recorded took place on Facebook, Snapchat and Instagram. We must do absolutely everything possible to challenge those online platforms to stop the scourge of online harm and abuse. An average of 1 child per primary school class has been seen or shown a naked or semi-naked image online by an adult, and more than 1 in 7 children aged 11 to 18 have been asked to send self-generated images and sexual messages. Terrifyingly, the Home Office says that an estimated 80,000 adults in the UK poses a sexual threat to children online. That is, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm sure, shocking for us all. Now, the Scottish Government has implemented a huge number of progressive and world-leading policies to better support women and indeed young people across Scotland. We've introduced legislation that makes Scotland the only part of the UK with requirements for gender parity on public boards. The Gender Representation on Public Boards Bill was recently passed in Parliament, and that sets an objective for listed public authorities that their board should have 50% of non-executive members who are women. I hope the Minister will take that into consideration. I know that her government has done a significant amount, particularly on getting companies with employees over 250 to register their gender pay gap, but more must be done. We must look at companies with under 250 employees, because very often some of the worst discrimination lies in those companies. And she will know that the First Minister of Scotland, as soon as Nicola Sturgeon, when she became First Minister, had a gender-balanced 50-50 cabinet, one of only 3 in the world. And many members have spoken of pioneering women. I want to pay tribute to my colleagues in my constituency, Fiona Hislop, the Cabinet Secretary for Culture and External Affairs, and until recently Angela Constance, who remains an MSP, was the Cabinet Secretary for Education and Lifelong Learning. Both of those women represented West Lothian constituencies, and both of them were in the Cabinet. The Livingston constituency has fielded female candidates in the last 6 elections, including my own mother in 2010. I just want to pay tribute a little bit, because I was interested by my honourable colleague from Wales. I apologise, I can never quite pronounce her constituency, but she mentioned the fact that International Women's Day started 110 years ago by women who were garment workers. My own grandmother was a garment worker during the Second World War. She met my grandfather when working for Rolls-Royce. When she returned to work after marrying, she was told that her job was a job for men, that she shouldn't be doing it, and she was given her books, essentially a dismissal. Married women were not eligible for employment of this sort. It was men's work, she was told. It took her until she was in her 80s to tell my mother and I, and the 3 men they kept on to do my job weren't worth a tenth of me. Now, it's taken 4 generations of women in my family to get to a position that you could say of power and influence, but we got there. And in the words of Angela Davis, I'm no longer accepting the things that I cannot change. I'm changing the things I cannot accept.
Hear, hear.